Coaches across the country used the Coachpad this past season to be more efficient with their scout card prep on the weekends as well as when out on the practice field working with their scout teams. Whether you're a coach using a computer program to create cards or drawing them by hand, the Coachpad is for you. Never printing paper or stuffing a binder, clearly seeing scout cards outdoors in the bright sun, and using the coach pad on game days, syncing diagrams from the press box to the sideline were some of the features coaches enjoyed this season. This offseason, get your coach pad at thecoachpad.com to get your program ready for next season. Thecoachpad.com.
Welcome back to another episode of the Gap Down Becker podcast. Today we have, I don't know how to word this, a rising star, an air raid guru, Coach Stan Bedwell. He is the offensive coordinator, GM of the new IFA San Antonio franchise. He's also an offensive coordinator at Sullivan East High School in Tennessee. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing good. I don't know if that's the longest intro I've ever had to do in terms of titles, but we'll go from there. But
I'm the, what do they call it? The something of few, master of none.
yeah, I wouldn't say that. I mean, you have a pretty good record as a coach and a player, and I mean, obviously you threw for passing yards and again a whole lot of things, and we'll see how this new venture goes for you and how. But I mean, how did you? Let's start with how did you end up at as a really a high school and an IFA OC, because you're double dueling, because obviously they're different time of the year. But how do you kind of end up where for some of my viewers who may not, that are more wing tee or under center focused, who've not explored the air raid or spread world, how did you kind of end up where you're at?
Well, I mean, I guess since 2015, I worked with Coach Mommy in one capacity or another most of the years. And after the spring league in 21, we thought that we were getting a job in the USFL, and so we kind of held off on other opportunities, really waiting for that. And then we found out about November that we weren't getting one. And about that time, coaches started talking to Jason Adams, the owner of the IFA, about putting this league together. So he's been there kind of from the start, working there, and me having my relationship with him. I've done, all I could to help out along the way with tryouts, social media, different things like that. So I mean, I knew wherever he went, I'd be going with him. I just didn't really know what league or what city we'd end up in. And I had started after the spring league at the same time. I had started doing a lot of consultation with high school and college coaching staffs all over the country. And so whether it be Zooms, I did some live clinics with Ron Mackey, and there's a lot of different things that I did teaching their rate online. And then it got to where I was flying out to, I think I flew to schools in 12 or 13 states, doing like Friday through Sunday consultations, teaching everything I know about their rate to them. And so when I was doing that, I came in December of 22, here to this area in Tennessee, and worked with the staff at Sullivan East, taught them the air raid. And I'd already known some of the coaches here. I've met them at clinics in the past and had a pretty good relationship with them. And I didn't really have anything else up at the moment. It was a good situation, and I liked the area. So, they had a lot of seniors coming back, a lot of good players, and I thought that it would be a lot of fun to come in and help out coaching here. So I did that last year, met a girl. We've been together a little over a year now. And I mean, I just love the area. It's a beautiful area. The community's great. And, you know, getting to know the kids and see the kids grow. Like last year, we graduated like 17 or 18 starters. And so this year we played with a roster that was about 70% sophomores. We had 4 seniors and 5 or 6 juniors. And so we went from a playoff team at a school that hasn't made the playoffs very often to this year we took our lumps. We threw for a lot of yards, but it resulted in 1 win. We threw for a lot of interceptions too and gave up a lot of points. It was just a really hard year. But the cool thing for that is that we've got even 2 years from now, we'll have 90% of the starters back from this year.
Yeah.
So it's nowhere to go but up. So that's been fun. And then obviously we got set in with San Antonio. That's where Hal got the job at, and so that's kind of been the plan all along. And the way that it's working out is training camp starts in mid-May, which is right after spring ball in Tennessee. And if we made it all the way to the championship, that's August 16th, and the first games in Tennessee are August 22nd.
Yeah.
So, it'll be missing a lot in the summer and missing some fall camp. But, being here with the staff for 2 years now, like they all know what we're doing, and the kids know what we're doing. We're pretty simple with what we do. The kids could probably go out there and do it without us. So, hopefully that all works out because I love how the opportunity to coach at a professional level is a great opportunity, and I think it's exciting to be with the league from the ground up. But at the same time, I'm really excited about being here and continuing to build what we're doing here because it's good kids and it's exciting. It's fun. It's like kind of two polar opposites of what you're coaching there.
Well, I will say at least you're splitting time between two great areas. Tennessee is a beautiful state, and then I lived in San Antonio for about 6 years. So
Yeah.
you can't ask for about two better areas to live and work in than those two areas. I will say that. Um, but I mean, you mentioned keeping it simple. Like I would say if you narrow down one of the philosophy is a bad word. One of the like core tenets of the air raid, it is being simple. Like it is, you don't have a lot. You do. It's obviously out of certain things and install schedules, but I think that's kind of one of your benefits. Do you think because of what you run that allows you to split your time, kind of as you mentioned, does that make it easier than saying running like I don't want to say a normal spread offense, but like a different variation of spread, a run shoot, or even like some for a multiple under center offense?
I don't know. I mean, I think having 2 years here under my belt with it, I mean, everybody's familiar. I don't have to go out and say, this is how we're going to practice today, or these are the plays we're going to run because they know what we're going to do. That they can go do it on their own. So, but I mean, I think regardless of what system, if you're there for 2 years and you're teaching it well, then, I would hope that your players would have enough ownership and understanding that they could still do it. So maybe it helps because it is what we do is really simple. But yeah, I don't know.
I'm curious because again, you've been obviously with Halbert 2015, but obviously you had done air raid before that as well, and obviously installed that in Europe and other places. And um, how how much from when you started to now are you the same, and how much have you, I'm not saying evolved, but adapted or modified over the course? I mean, it's been about 15 years of you doing this, give or take. I think if I looked at
Yeah, I
research right.
think 08, 09 was the first year that I ran the air raid.
Yeah. So yeah, 15 years there. Look, I did my research right.
Uh, I was a lot more creative before I got with Coach Mummy.
Okay.
It was the same concepts, but it probably looked a lot closer to like what you would see from Kingsbury at Tech, where you have a ton of motion and misdirection and still getting to that. But and I think that's what blew my mind when because Mummy I had talked to on the phone a few times and met a time or two at like a clinic, but I didn't know him on a personal level. And in 2015, I had the honor of speaking at the AFCA convention, and Coach Mummy was there doing. I mean, they're usually there, but he was there. He had a booth for. It wasn't Air Raid certified at the time, but it was, I guess, kind of what became Air Raid certified. It was his teaching stuff that he does, and also Game Day Skins, which was a helmet wrap that, yeah, where you don't have to paint your helmet if you want to have something different for a game. That's a company that he was running at the time. So he had that, and I just went over and introduced myself in person again. Wasn't sure if he'd remember me. He did, and I think since you've done this podcast with him, if you never talk to him again from now to like you see him 5 years from now, he's gonna say, "Oh, hi, Nicholas. How are you?" He doesn't forget people. He really doesn't. And so he's like, "I know who you are. I remember you." And he's like, "Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about coming on my podcast." or it wasn't podcast. I don't know if podcasts existed in 15. It was his XM radio show.
Yes, that's right.
They, he was like, "Yeah, I want you to come speak on my XM radio show," and so I went to his hotel, and he had the setup there, and we talked mostly about Europe. We talked a lot about Europe and running their rate in Europe, things like that. And then he asked if I wanted to stay after for dinner, and that was just incredible. We had this table with like some oil tycoons from Texas. There was Sam Gwynn, who wrote the Perfect Pass book, and like very accomplished author. And there's like all these people there, and I'm just there like soaking it all in. And I'm trying to kind of sound cool, bring something to the conversation, and I guess I said a few things that were funny or something because like at some point, mommy was like, "I like you. You're smart. I want you to be on my staff. Come coach for me at Bellhaven." So I went there with him, like that next year. And what was you know how as we talked before, what was this question even? My mind is great. I'm
You're good.
doing like 18 things at once.
You're good. I was like, yeah. I mean, you started mentioning like you pretty much said you were a lot more creative before you started working with Coach
Yeah.
Money. How have you
Yes.
have you since you started running the air raid? Have you simplified? Have you modified?
Well,
How have you a changed over 15 years? Because like I said, you installed this back in 08, 09, back when you're
yeah.
essentially in Europe, and obviously you've coached at junior colleges, you've coached with Coach Mummy, you've coached
Mhm.
variety of spaces. How have you evolved as a play caller and an OC, and I mean, what your playbook looks like, really?
There we go. And that's what I was trying to get to. I was doing the Donald Trump weave or something. I was going to get back to it eventually. Um, yeah. So like in '09 when I learned it, I learned the basics. I didn't know too much of it, and then I learned it, and I went over because I just played for a team in Serbia and we won the championship there. But I wanted to we're itching. But I wanted to I don't know, be better on offense. I wanted to win the championship again, and I wanted to just have a better system. So I did all I could to learn the air raid over like throughout the off season when I was back in the States. I went to a clinic at McMurray where Coach Mummy was, or it wasn't McMurray at the time. It was a
Oh,
clinic in Texas. I went to one in McMurray a few years later
I
with
know what
them.
you're talking about, but yeah.
But I went to a clinic and got to meet with Matt Mummy, and he was really gracious and he taught me a lot and kind of answered the questions that I had that maybe you couldn't find in a clinic video or something like that. And I went back there in '08 running or in '09 running the air raid, and I think the year before I'd thrown for like we won the championship and I threw for like 1,500 yards, and then I threw for almost 600 in my first game running the air raid, and ended up throwing for like 4,400 in 10 games that year or something, and 68 touchdowns. And I was like, okay, I like this offense. But that first year, I mean, it's very basic. It was a basic plays. I don't know if we even did any motion. And then coming back or like the following year, I went to like Denmark, and I think it was very basic again. And then I started toying with a little bit in 2011. I went back to the Serbian team, and we started toying a bit with motions, and we did a little bit of stuff. But that fall, I got my first college offensive coordinator job. It was at Northland College in Minnesota. They don't have football anymore. Um, but there, I just went nuts, and I mean, I had so many variations that we were doing every week. I mean, it's really cool. Like if I were to look at it from a design of things I could put online that would make people go, "Wow!" It's probably that first year coaching. I probably did more there than I've done anywhere else, and it's kind of impressive how thinking now with how I do things, like how well everybody picked it up. And we're junior colleges. A lot of guys maybe aren't too studious or maybe have learning disabilities, things like that. They're there usually because of academics. The fact that they picked up what we were doing was pretty dang impressive. Um, so yeah, I'd done that a lot, and I had a lot of motions and variations after that. But when I got on it with Mummy that year, I get on with mommy and I'm like, gosh, I'm going to learn everything in the world right now. I'm going to learn all these. And then I got there and I realized like I know there's nothing extra here to learn really. Like what I saw is that, his call sheets were about a third the size of what mine were, you know, and it was repetitive and it was simple and there wasn't much motion and wasn't much variation and wasn't much tags. And I'd say that's kind of like where I've changed. Like since being with him, I've simplified so much from game planning to variations to all of that. And I mean now it's kind of my belief in what we do and what we try to do is we just want to come out and run our basic plays out of the basic formations. And that's usually what our call sheets are going to look like. And then, you know, if you stop the basic play instead of just saying like, oh, we can't run this against them, they got us. We just say, oh, okay, they're stopping this play. How? Oh, because that safety's coming down. Okay, let's adjust this route and have this guy run a post over the safety's head. He's already got leverage on the corner, something like that. So really now it's more of go out with a basic game plan and then just problem solve. So we're not trying to outsmart them like during the week. During the week, we just want to rep our base plays as many times as we can and be as good as we can at those base plays. And then Friday nights or Saturdays, whatever league we are, wherever we're playing at, when you get to game day, it's let's go out run our base stuff. And a lot of times it works, and we don't need to do anything special. And then if it doesn't work, we usually try to call it again a couple times and almost to like confirm that this is how they're covering this. This is how they're playing this. And we line up a certain way and they play it the same way two or three times. We know that third or fourth time, okay, now let's make them pay. And so that's it's a very patient with what we do. We don't need to go score first drive. We don't need to throw it down the field, all the time. We can throw it short. We can run the same plays. We can eat up clock. It's really about just trying to be efficient with the base plays. Take what they give you, but understand you're not going to complete 100% of passes anyway. So if we have to throw shallow 3 times to see how they're covering it and it doesn't work all 3 times, we'll do that because now we're pretty confident we know what they're going to do when they see that guy crossing, and now we can work a screen or something away from it, or tag a post over the dig, or do something different like that to make them pay. So that's where I think it's changed. Where before it was more about what's the coolest variations I can come up with here in the game plan, practice all week, and then run. I'm getting a little fly or something. Uh, and now it's just yeah, let's just run our base stuff, and if they stop it, then let's put our minds together and see how we can make them pay for it. And a lot of times that'll come from the players.
Yeah.
I'll almost always ask players on the sideline, like, hey, what are you seeing out there? The quarterback, he's got a lot going on. So usually it's the receivers that are going to tell you what's open in the passing game. They're going to tell you how they can get open. And so that makes me think back to the spring league. We had this classic game against AJ and Glanville, their team. We went into overtime with them. I think we won 47-41. But it was just a back and forth game. And we fell behind in the third quarter by 2 scores. And our ex receiver comes over and he's like, man, he's like, because we're running, 6, which is 4 verts. We're calling that, but the thing is, our corner's playing outside leverage, and we teach to outside release when we run 4 verts. And so basically, we were just kind of outside release into the sideline, and there's nothing there. And they were playing 2 safeties over top, so pretty much we were taking those outside guys out, and then between the backers and the safeties, they could cover the slots. But he came over, our ex, and he's like, I can win on a post if y'all throw a post. He's like, so let me run a post. We'll run 6. But we're like, well, then you're going to run right into that seam. So, when he comes and says he can win on this route, what our job is to say, okay, you can win on this route. Well, what can we do with that guy inside of you? that's going to make sure you're open on this. Because if you can beat the corner on a post, okay, let's have that slot run right at the safety and try to get his eyes down and try to bring him down so that you have space on that post.
Yeah.
So, he said that in the very first play we ran. When he said that, we threw the post for a touchdown. And then they scored really quick on us again. And the next drive, we handed it off up the middle. And then we did a sit post on the other side and hit that for a touchdown. And then in overtime, we threw a post off of a dig with the same thought process that they're going to jump down on that vertical, like, because essentially they were playing like a kind of a quarters, and the safeties would just catch this if the slots broke. When they got to 10 yard, that's their breaking point. That it basically becomes man at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that's kind of how we do it. It's an overall team effort of coaches and players of understanding and when you're that simple, your players can understand it too and understand what gets them open. And so, yeah, I think it's maybe a different philosophy than what most people do, but I think it can be really effective, especially if you have a good football team.
Yes. Now, building off that, because obviously game planning, you guys are going to run your stuff, and you're reading for grass, and like I said, again, part of the sales pitch and the benefit of the air raid, and you listen to anybody that's ever ran it for a long time, is it doesn't matter what covers are in. Like I said, if we follow progressions and so forth, somebody will be open. But how do you, throughout the week, when you're doing 7-on-7 or routes on air, instill to your receivers so they can get to that point, like you mentioned, I'm going to be open, or this, or how do you rep 7-on-7 to the point? Obviously, you're running your stuff that you're at, but from a scripting your defense or scripting how your practices are going to go, how do you set that up to develop kids to that point, and really so you can also develop as a play caller?
We don't script the defense. If our team is a 40 front team and we're playing a team that week that's a 30 front, we still just let them run. We let them run their defense.
Yeah.
So our defense runs our defense. We do our stuff. Now I might say on a certain play, I might tell like the coach like, hey, I might say like, hey, give me 2 high here, or can I get 1 right here or something like that. But 95% of our practice reps, I don't know, and I don't care what the defense is doing. And so, the linemen need to see, if we're playing at 30 front, the linemen need to see the blitz package where they can talk off what they're going to be doing there and stuff, getting ready for that. But that's what they're doing during Indy, or while we're doing 7-on-7 during that like 1-on-1 time. That's when they'll do like a blitz pickup or something like that.
Yeah.
We don't really do inside run. I mean, we run just a couple plays anyway, so it would get kind of repetitive. We do the 3-day install if we're in camp. We only do like 1 run a day in camp, and we don't run our plays both ways. So we run like ISO to the left, we run counter to the right. So, if we're on that install 3, the 3rd day of practice or whatever, if we're doing 11-on-11, all we're going to do, or set inside run, all we're going to do is run counter 10 times in a row against you.
Yeah.
And so it's just, we figure, okay, we'll just squeeze in a few extra runs whenever we're doing team to get those looks.
Okay. And then, so obviously they're doing that. How much is practice of all, like, I know again the bare bones and skeleton hasn't really changed, but from a drill or even just a time perspective, have you changed anything since you've started 15 years ago, practice wise? Obviously, since you've probably been with Coach Mummy, you've probably trimmed it up or narrowed it down, but how has practice worked for you or evolved for you? Because I mean, some coaches have 3-day install methods, some have 4, some have each different little processes. Some focus a lot heavier on stuff like set on noose and other things. How's a typical practice plan look for you on a given day?
I mean, it's pretty much if we're in the preseason, before we're playing games like spring ball or preseason or anything like that, then it's always going to start. We don't really do Indy with our skill guys, with like running backs or receivers. We tell those coaches, like, if you want to do Indy, go out and do it before we do settle news. Like, get your guys together, go out there, get in whatever work you need then. But we're going to go out, we're going to start with settle news with our centers. The rest of the linemen are usually going to be doing like jump ropes, ladder drill, things like that, where that's what they're doing instead of stretching. They're moving slow, working on footwork, getting the blood pumping, like slowly loosening themselves up that way. And we do the same with settling loose, and then every receiver is going to get about two balls each in settling loose typically. So that's going to take, depending on the size of the team and where you're at, usually that's anywhere from like 3 to 5 minutes. If we got a bigger team, we're also probably going to have more quarterbacks, so we can split up and have more sessions of this going at once. After settling loose, we do pat and go, and that hasn't changed for years. It's you do a one-step slant, you do a back shoulder, and then you do an outside shoulder working, catching the ball over your shoulder. So you'll do that and go over, get the ball to the quarterback, get on the other side and go. So you catch two of those. And we'll just do like right side one day, left side the next day. And so we'll just like alternate the days. From there, it goes straight always. And like the linemen will go from that point on, the linemen are doing indie. They got the everyday drills that they do, which is probably 75% of what they do is pass pro drills because we throw the ball a lot and our run game's so simple that we don't really even do much zone anymore. It's more just gap scheme, body on body, gap down backer.
I appreciate the plug, Coach.
But yeah, so they're over there doing their backpedaling and all that fun stuff that we have them do, and we're always going to go. We take like whatever our quick game pass is for that day, and we're going to do the quick game pass for the day out of whatever variations we have, and that we always keep that within about a 5 minute period. From there, we won't. Ideally, we have 5 quarterbacks throwing it to 5 guys that catch it, run to the end zone, and the next 5 step up. If we're at a bigger school, we might only have like 3 guys throwing. We might throw like play side, and then 2 guys throw backside if we're at a smaller school. Or coaches will step in and throw things like that. Mommy threw a little bit this year. It wasn't too pretty. He's a great coach, but he's not the best quarterback anymore. that was a lot of fun though. But so we get through that, like the quick game for the day, then we do mesh drill, and we're always going to do like the first install will be the base mesh, so we're doing it to the right side. Then we'll do like flip where we move our Z over to the left the second day, and we'll do that. Then the third day we just do the only tag we do on mesh really is post wheel, and so we'll do both ways, like all the plays that we did the first 2 days, we'll do those with the wheel tags. And so that'll be our mesh period. After mesh, we bring the line with us and we'll work whatever our screen is for the day. So it's just a quick screen usually on the first day. The second day we do, that's the day that we do shallows in our drop back pass. And on that day we do, we call Rita Lisa, it's the slow screen to the running back. And then the third day we do surge, which is a double screen with the swing on one side and the jailbreak on the
Oh,
other.
yeah.
And so that'll be about a 5 to 10 minute period. We'll just line up rapidly, run through those. Usually we have hand shields with guys sitting there on defense. After that, the linemen will go back and we do what we call routes on air then, that's just us throwing 5 balls in the air doing our drop back passing. So the first day it's 4 verticals, the second day shallow, the third day we do Y cell and Y cross. And when we do that, that's usually after we do the screen, that's when the linemen are going to go over and work a little bit on the running game. After that, you go to, we'll usually do like, depending on the high school, we don't do it just because we don't have much time. But if we were going to do like inside, we do more inside. Like if we're a high school, we'll do inside more for the defense. So we'll send like a backup quarterback and some backup running backs, and they'll go over there and they'll give the defense a look on what the run game is they're going to see that week. And then what we're going to do is Skelly. Or if they're doing that, we'll do one-on-ones if they're doing that whole like run game shit. But like basically, is the idea of it is the whole like they do inside run while we do one-on-ones, and then we do Skelly while the linemen do one-on-ones. But we do that, and after those period, and the only plays we run like in that Skelly are the plays that we ran in quick game mesh drill and routes on air.
Okay.
And then after that, we'll do special teams. And then we only go about 10 minutes a day on special teams. We don't put too much time into that really. And then we go to Bandit, which is our 11 on 11, and we're moving the ball pretty much like 5 middle, 10 left, middle 20 right there. And we do that down the field. So we're getting to work all the different field zones. And we're just running the plays that we had in the script. So whatever our run is for that day, whatever the screen is for that day, and the passes that we did on all the routes on air periods.
Yeah.
And so we just do those all on the first install. We come out Tuesday, and now we go to that new set of plays. It's maybe the first day is Y stick, second day is Y corner, first day is six, second day is shallow. And so first day might be the draw, second day is the ISO or lead draw. So we have it kind of worked out like that. And that's how we do during the week, or like preseason. When we're in season, it goes more, it goes into game planning. So we have field zones that we game plan, and that's like on Monday, what we're going to do is we're going to work our coming off, which is -1 to -5. We got 3 or 4 plays there that we, from the first day of spring ball to the championship game, if we made it, those plays are never going to change. We want to be really comfortable there. Like so many people will do quarterback sneaks from the 1 to the 2, and then they'll still go back in the end zone to take a shotgun snap, which has them already in the end zone, which makes no sense. So we have a set of plays there that have worked for us for years that we're confident are going to work for us. And we just want to we want our guys to be comfortable, and we tell them to be excited whenever we're on the 1, because we're like, hey, now we can go get 99 yards passing. We can never get more yards than starting at the 1. So our mindset is we're excited about this. Let's go attack them. Where I think a lot of people, it's kind of like a oh shit mentality of,
Yeah.
I hope we don't give them 2 points. So and I think we're really good, no matter what team we're at. Like this year, we were not a good football team, but we were still really good coming off because it's just the repetition of knowing what they're going to run in that area. From the -6 to the 20, or -6 to -19, is what we call the yellow zone, and essentially there we just don't want to get sacked back into the coming off. So we have things that get the ball out quick. So it's usually like shallows, a screen, a run, and a quick game. And that doesn't really change throughout the year. So, anything when we're pushed back inside our own 20, we want to be really efficient. And that gets us to the open field, which is 20 to 20. And that's when we're going to script it, try to run them in order. We're going to have run, screens, a trick play action. We're going to do all our stuff. Then we want to run different formations. That's the real game planning part that we do. And now, luckily, that's only about 10 to 12 plays. So we really only have to game plan about 10 to 12 plays a week. And a lot of times, if it worked really good the week before, we'll just say, well, or if we're way better than the team we're playing, we're like, well, let's just run the script we did last week.
Yeah.
Or if we're playing that team that we know we don't have a chance to beat, we're like, well, let's just run that script from last week because we're not going to win anyway. Let's be good at what we're doing. And, we practice it for 1 week. Let's just practice for 2 weeks now. We should be even better at it. So that's kind of the thought process there from open field. Once we get inside the 20, we got, red zone, which would be like 19 to the 6. And we're trying to get in the end zone from there. And if we don't, we get down inside the 5. That's our goal line package. And much like coming off, we pretty much have a package that stays the same all year long right there. Other than that, we have a short yardage package and a long yardage package for like 3rd and long or 4th and short. And that's our whole script. So the way we would do it in a 3-day install with that is install 1 is coming off, yellow zone, open field. Install 2 is open field, red zone, goal line. And in both of those days, we'll sprinkle in like half of the 4th and 1 and half of the 3rd and long. Or we might just have a period on that second day where we say, hey, okay, we're going to run all 5 of these plays, and it's 3rd and 8. It's 4th and 11. We give like maybe a down and distance, and we try that. And then that 3rd day, we just run through our entire script. We just want to be perfect running through the whole script. So we do it all. We don't do much. We've already gotten through all the routes on air and stuff like that in the other 2 days. So pretty much after selling news, pat, and go, we can that's the day that we'll work our scramble drill.
Yeah.
And then from there, we just go and we run our whole script. And that's pretty much our whole week and how we do it. So, quick game in season, we would look, do we have any quick game in coming off? Usually we don't. Quick game in yellow zone, we might have one. Then you get to open field, and it's like, okay, we got 3 quick games here. So we're going to have 5 quick game passes we run that day. Yep. Mesh, we're not running coming off. We're not running in yellow. We'll probably have we'll probably have mesh once in open field. So we're only going to run mesh once that day. But that's how we script it up. So, and we never run anything that doesn't fit that day.
Yeah, no, I get you. That's perfect, Coach. I couple more questions before we go. Like, one, do you or your position coaches have like any non-negotiables, like things you like, hey, you have to be able to master these, or we have to really focus on developing this skill? I know, like, again, talking to Hal, talking to other people who run the air raid, the type of X you might have from one year to one year might be 2 different bodies, or Y, or whatever. But like, is there anything like when you're looking at your receivers as a whole, or your quarterbacks, or your O-line, like, we got to be able to do this? Obviously, not just like catching and just general throwing, but like, is there like non-negotiables you have for your positions?
I don't know if I see non-negotiable lists, and I think those are cool. I don't think I've ever really thought about non-negotiables. Things that I think are always going to make us a good team with the quarterback is that I think the most important thing outside of any physical attributes is that the guys like him. You don't want to be on a team where everybody hates the quarterback. If they like you, they're going to listen to you, they're going to follow you, and they're going to put up with you yelling at them. And sometimes you need to yell at them. So for quarterbacks, I'd say more than, if you take away physical attributes, physically more than anything, it's just being accurate and being fearless. But other than that, for quarterbacks, it's just being likable and loving the game. I want a guy that loves it, that wants to learn, the guy that comes to me and says like, hey, can we watch more film, or can we talk about this or that? Running backs, they kind of do everything there. So, you need if you have a guy that doesn't catch well, but he does other things well, then don't throw him the ball. Don't have him in a position where he's running a route.
Yeah.
Let him run the ball, let him block. And if you need both guys to go out, then put in somebody else there. So I think with running backs, it's just find what their strengths are. And most guys are probably only really good at 2 out of the 3. If you get a guy that's good at all 3, then get him the ball as much as you can. Let him block for you, do whatever you have to do. But otherwise, like, call to their strengths. Sub guys out if they don't do something well. And then receiver, we're really, really strict about our releases and alignment of where we line up. So, you need to be lined up in the right spot, because for us, open is our 2x2 set. And for a lot of people, they might say if the outside receivers are here and inside's here, they might say, okay, that's open. If they wanted them to all condense, then it might be called like open squeeze. Or if they want them to widen out, it might be open wide or something like that. We just call everything open. And if it's 2x2, it's open. And according to the play that's called, you need to know where to adjust your alignment. If we're running mesh, for example, our X and Y who mesh, they both need to cheat in within 5 yards of the tackle. The Z needs to give himself some space to run the corner route. So they just all have a line. If we're going to run a wheel out of the backfield, the Z better be in even closer, because I don't want my wheel to have to run 9 yards outside to get up the field. So that's kind of how we teach there. So I think that's a huge thing. Huge thing is alignment, and then just releases on routes, because everything's got either an inside or an outside release. Few routes might have best release or easiest release, but for the most part, I want you to outside release. And then guys will say, well, I'm not getting open doing that. But it's not about, if you're covered, that means that you're opening somebody else up. And it's okay to understand that this isn't one-on-ones. And I hate this like camp culture where there's all these like one-on-ones with guys doing triple moves and stuff like that over the summer, because it just doesn't correlate to football. And they go and they do that. And then they get out there, they come to you in season trying to do that, and they might get open, but the quarterback has no idea where they're going. He has no idea what they're doing. And by the time you get open, the quarterback's already sacked or moved on, and then you yell at him. And He's not psychic. He has no idea what you're doing. And so I think that the thing I'd say is quarterbacks being likable and loving the game. For the running backs, it's just we're going to figure out what you can do best and put you in position to succeed. Receivers, alignment, and releases. And then for linemen, I just want guys that fight. I mean, from a technical standpoint, because this is tough, is keeping shoulders square. It is absolute hell getting linemen to keep shoulders square in pass pro, especially. They start to get beat outside, and they feel like, okay, well, I need to turn or I'm going to get beat, and then they turn, and all they have left is their arm to stop this guy. They just run right around them. So with the vertical setting like we do, we want a vertical set back with our shoulders square, and we just kind of want to mirror them and stay square and understand that if my quarterback's over here and there's a line here, if the lineman's dropping back, if I just stay on my straight line here, eventually the D end out here's got to cross this line. So instead of saying, "Oh, the D end's there, I'm here. Oh, he's going wide. Let me go wide with him," and now you open up the inside. There's so much there. So with linemen being fighters and just get back straight.
Okay.
And I don't.
Two questions left for you,
Yeah.
Coach. One is I love asking not only air raid people this. I really like anybody that has a niche that is like triple people. I like weak people. I like just in general. Like out of all the air raid plays you run, which not necessarily your best, but what is the one you enjoy either when you played and were throwing it, or now as a play caller calling it? Like which one do you enjoy the most? Like if I had to ask you, you have one last play to call. Like what is the one you like? What was that favorite play?
For me, it was always four verticals. I think four verticals is easily the best play in football because you can win over top. And for us, when we call six, it's called six because we want you to find a way to score. Like, so the quarterback has free reign to check any route to any receiver when we call six. So, and we also have a lot of built-in adjustments. So the outside guys can fall out versus zone. The inside guys, one can sit at 10, one can run a post. And, so there's a lot of, it ends up being a whole lot of plays, but I always loved six. And even in its purest form, I loved it because you can back shoulder. You can back shoulder versus man. You can fall out versus zone. If you beat them, you can throw that deep ball. If you get a press, you can catch and throw it up right away and let them run underneath it. I love throwing the seams. Really love throwing seams against the zone of right when they get past them, or seams versus man to man, and just throwing it right over that linebacker's head at 15 yards, and he doesn't ever see the ball because you've outside released him and he's turned trying to catch up with you. So for me, I love six. I think it's the best play. As far as what do I enjoy play calling the most, it's just whatever scores.
Yep.
It's like
That's one explanation right there.
Some teams are great at six, some teams aren't, and that's a key thing too, is you got to find what your guys are good at. We run what we run. Our playbook's not going to change, but play calling's going to change every year. Like, one play that we've ran some, at least some every year, but some years a lot since Mummy was with June Jones at SMU is the run and shoot go, the go concept out of run and shoot. And last year here at Sullivan East, that was by far our best quick game. But we were phenomenal at it. This year we were awful at it, and after week 2, I never called it again. And so that was our best quick game last year. We were bad at it this year, and I think which there was a lot of things we were bad at this year. We were young, but in general, what you got to find is you find what your guys are good at doing, and that's what you want to call. And we always tell our quarterbacks, hey, if you don't feel comfortable with what's called here, if you don't think it's going to work, I don't want you to snap the ball, throw it, and then come to the sideline complaining. Because you have free. If you don't like the play, you can change it, or you can look to us and ask us to call you a different play. I always tell quarterbacks, I never want you snapping. I never want you to say, for us, it's go hit is our case. I never want to hear you say go hit if you're not confident that the play is going to work.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and so that's something, and they do. Even with the sophomore quarterback this year, he's 14 years old and he's out there making a lot of checks and changing plays and checking to the sideline. it's pretty cool to see. It was a lot more fun coaching the sophomore as opposed to the senior last year who had broke all the school records, because you see that growth like
Yeah.
week by week, and it's tough because it maybe doesn't result in as many wins as you'd like, but whenever they do make that check or whatever and stand in the pocket and make that like big throw, it seems so much more rewarding seeing their growth and their development. So that's one thing that you don't really get much at the college level. I mean, I guess you could to an extent, and I guess you could to an extent at the pro level, but everybody in college is probably a pretty good football player. Everybody at a professional level is a good football player.
Yeah.
At high school to see it, it's a pretty cool thing. That's one thing I really enjoy about doing this.
Good. Last question I have for you is because I'm curious, but just it kind of a sales pitch. I mean, obviously, the IFA is starting this year, and you're obviously now the GM and the OC for the San Antonio franchise with Coach. I mean, what should we expect? I mean, obviously, you guys are working on rosters and all that process right now, but come May and June, what can people who are going to watch kind of expect, just league wide or even just from you guys? Obviously, the air raid, we can all assume that, but kind of, I mean, what can we kind of expect? What can we kind of look forward to?
Well, what we want to do with this league, I think what makes us different from other football leagues that have tried to start is we know exactly what we are. We describe ourselves as a double A baseball. We are a developmental professional league. Now, usually when you hear like say minor league in minor league baseball, you think, oh, that's pro baseball. They made it. Minor league football, you think, oh, that's some guys smoking cigarettes on the sideline getting in fights with their coach. It's the semi-pro amateur stuff, but we want to be a true professional minor league. So we see like indoor ball and European ball as like a single A. We see ourselves as double A. Triple A would be UFL, CFL, and then obviously, you know, NFL is where everybody would like to get.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is, offer that opportunity to get film, have high level coaching, get exposure on television, get your name out there, and use the connections of the coaches, because there's some pretty big name coaches that are involved with the league. And I mean, our staff is phenomenal. We've got several former NFL coaches on staff, and Power Five head coaches on staff, and not many have been announced yet, but our staff's incredible. And using their connections. And what we tell guys is, you come in and you show out week one. If then you get a call from a higher level team that wants to sign you, like, go. That's really, we want to be the minor league. We want to get you moved on. We want to be a players league. We want to be fun like the minor leagues. You go to a minor league baseball game, there's all kinds of shenanigans going on with, contest and
Yep.
I don't know, like a large guy and a guy in a large baseball like uniform running and kicking kids down or something like that. You have all this fun, zany stuff, and we kind of want to bring that atmosphere. That it's just something you can go to with the family. You don't have to pay an arm and a leg. You
Yeah.
can watch. You can watch the game. You can have fun, and we want to be within the community where, I mean, I guess right now the only alternative in 11-man is the UFL, and while that's more established and the guys are going to make more money and it is a higher level than us, and we know that. They still do have like the hubs and stuff there where these guys are all living in one place practicing, and then they'll fly to their game in their hometown and things like that. And that's one thing that we're hoping we can also differentiate ourselves as being the local team. So we're there throughout the week. So yeah, it's probably hard to have a Memphis film crew or Memphis TV station come down to Dallas during the week to attend practice. Or especially, you get somebody on the East Coast or West Coast, and now they're going to come into Dallas to attend practice that week for a 5-minute segment or 2-minute segment or whatever. But with us being there, we're hoping that we can just build a lot better, I guess, community with the local media, the fans, businesses, and kind of grow this thing together.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. I mean, there's risk in it. It's a new league. You've seen a lot of leagues fall apart, and I think that um, at times it's been scrutinized like, okay, we pushed it back a year, or where are all these teams that were initially listed and now they're not there anymore? And the whole point of it was it's just a vetting process, or okay, yeah, we wanted to have a team in this place. The ownership said that they were going to do this, and then they didn't fulfill their end of the bargain. The team didn't have the money to pay the fees, and then how are you going to pay for a stadium and equipment and players and staff and transportation and housing and all of that stuff? So, I think that Jason's done a good job of vetting the ownership and settling into groups that he believes are going to do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's been a ton of work for about 2 years now, a little over 2 years that I've been involved doing this. And right now there hasn't been a lot to show for it, but I mean, roster wise, we're really solid on numbers with where we want to be right now. And yeah, we want to put together a league this fun. We want to have a high scoring league. You got Mommy, you got Art Briles, Manny Metsakis is a great offensive mind. You got Eric Marty out in Baltimore, who me and Eric played against each other in Italy in 2012. We had a shootout there. He beat me, but we played twice. Our schedule's weird. We played twice. A 7-team schedule makes things really weird.
Yeah.
The 7-team league makes it weird. So the way it worked out, where it could be the most fair for everybody, is somehow we go to Baltimore twice. So I got 2 chances at revenge on Eric Marty for his Catania Elephants knocking off my Lazio Marines in 2012.
Well, one of you will have a winning record against each other by the end of the year, so that will end up next year. So
yeah, that is a definite.
yeah, so that's a positive. So coaches, sit here real quick. I'll do my quick exit spiel, and then we'll stop and do all that jazz. Coaches, one, obviously give Coach a follow on social media if you haven't. I'll put his Twitter and stuff in the bio. If you want to see anything else Coach has done, I mean, there's like 80,000 things regarding him on YouTube alone, not to mention CoachTube and probably 14 other places you probably could find Coach if I had to bet money. Check out IFA come May, June, July, August of 2025. Check out our sponsor, like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. That's another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast.